Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. For week 5, you're going to be reading chapters 13 and 15. You have data exercise number 2. You have the assignment, homework assignment, and you have your discussion board. Please let me know if you have any questions, as I'd be more than willing to assist. But I look forward to your effort with those participations, so I know you can really focus on that. So now, what we're going to do this week, we're going to cover the discussion board topics. We're going to cover the data exercise as well. The data exercise is very important. So now, what we want to do is go to the syllabus, and you're going to look at each part. So part 1 is you're going to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, select Employment Situation Survey. Okay, Employment Situation Survey. Write a 1 to page 2 report. Now, people need to make sure, or students need to make sure that they have an APA formatted in-text citation and reference to support their work. That's very important. A lot of students aren't doing that. So that's something that the focus should be on. You're going to look at what month and year is summarized, what's the unemployment rate for that month, how does the rate compare to the previous month, so what are some of the trends you're looking at, what are the rates for women, teenagers, blacks, Hispanics, white? Maybe even a table would be good for that. What factors make it difficult to determine the rate? Why is the unemployment, why is this an economic problem at all? What are non-economic effects of unemployment? So think of psychological issues, think of motivation, think that people get very tough. It's very tough to do that when you look at it. Okay, so make sure to focus on that as well. Who loses from unemployment? So what things do you lose from unemployment? Then part 2, you're going to go to the BLS again, select Consumer Price Index. Now, I want to know the month and the year. What was the CPI for that month? What is the inflation rate? So how do you calculate that? You calculate it based off of the previous year. Okay, you calculate based off the previous year. Which 2 categories of goods and services had the greatest price increase for the month? So where in there did you find the greatest increase? It could be very interesting when you look at it. Which 2 categories had the lowest price increase? Who loses from inflation? So what are some of the big challenges and who loses from inflation that might exist? Make sure to put subheadings in there as well. Subheadings are very, very important, so I know which part that you're on. Okay, so make sure to focus on those subheadings. Then I want you to look at the unemployment rate data for part 3. So you're going to download the individual tables. You're going to find the unemployment data in table B12, civilian unemployment rate, for 4 years. Use 4 labor groups, males and females. Use ages 16 to 19 versus 20, and present the results in your project in a table. So I want to know what results do you have. I want to see if you can collect the data effectively. After you're done with that, use the economic report of the president. Present your results in your project as a table. Now you want to compare the distribution of the unemployment over these years. Is there any relationship that you think exists over these years? Do you see anything that might exist that might create opportunities in markets? Okay, so make sure to focus on that. Then, starting in the early 90s, many U.S. firms downsized their operations. How did this affect the unemployment rate? And how did this affect the duration? The duration of unemployment is looking at people that are being unemployed for extended periods of time. How did that influence the duration of unemployment? Okay. Then, look at the demographics. Do you see any changes to this rate that's going to be happening? So look at demographics and any changes that you might see and influences it might have on the rate as well. Make sure that you're using APA formatting in your work. That's very important. Here's the grading rubric that I'm looking at. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So really focus on this and make sure to really answer it so you can really do well. If you have any questions, please let me know, as I'm more than willing to assist. I'm more than willing to pre-grade it. But I know when you can do these aspects, it will really help with your efforts. So now, let's go to the chapter and review some of the stuff for this week. And this week we're going to be looking at the role of money supply and monetary policy. You'll notice the Fed's very important to our economy. And the Fed's important to our economy is the Fed is the central bank of the United States. And when the Fed is the central bank of the United States, they are creating a lot of decisions in our economy. And their policies have many influences off of many of the decisions. And those policies can really influence markets. So that's something you want to really focus on. How can markets be influenced by the Fed? You'll notice the Fed is the central bank of the United States. Yep, didn't respond here. Hold on. The Fed has some main goals, and the main goals of the Fed is to ensure that we have price stability, that we have full employment, and we have economic growth. So they're trying to influence policies based off of that, and that's very important for them to look at. And they try to do policies that will help stimulate the growth in the economy. The Fed has probably more opportunities to create these markets than many other people. The Fed is divided into 12 districts, and these 12 districts align to where the Fed is at. You'll notice it's very important to evaluate. So when we look at these 12 districts, they have many opportunities to help us. And when you look at these many opportunities, you notice that they come together to decide what is happening. And when we look at these markets and them making those decisions, you notice that we have to look at how markets are going to align based off the Fed. The Fed comes together with those 12 districts to decide what is the most appropriate monetary policy. And when we look at the most appropriate monetary policy, the Fed was really focused on how they can influence decisions in markets. So that's one thing that we need to look at with the Fed. How can the central bank influence what's happening in markets? Let me see if I can. Now, how a central bank executes monetary policy. They do this through three operations. Open market operations, changing the required reserve ratio, and changing the discount rate. So these are the three things that the Fed influences, and the most important one out of those is the open market operations. So that's the most important one that they focus on. When we look at the Fed, you notice that they're focused on how to create stable prices in our economy. The main way to create stable prices in our economy is through the role of monetary policy. And through the role of open market operations is the buying and selling of government bonds and securities. Okay, that's very important to evaluate. Buying and selling of government bonds and securities. And they can create opportunities in markets as well. So we want to look at the opportunities they can create in markets. These are some of the policies and concepts that we're looking at this week. If you need any assistance, please let me know, as I'm more than willing to assist and pre-grade any of your work as well. But I look forward to your effort this week.